Gemara Ein Beis on Beis at the bottom. So we had, in fact, the first part of the Gemara is also Nagea to the next element. So start from the Gemara. So it says, Shema, we learned from the Mishnah that it says if the brothers would eat by their father's house, but they would sleep in their own houses, so they have to contribute separately to the ERU if it's not in one of their houses. So Shema, now we see a proof from here. Makam Lina Garim, that even though they eat by their father's house, being that they sleep in separate locations, therefore that makes it that they have to contribute separately to the ERU. Okay, Amar Rav Yehuda Marav b'Makabli Prashanu. No, it's speaking about where the father is supporting his sons, but they're not eating by his table. The difference is that they're actually eating at home. Therefore, they're in a separate house. Okay, so I said, Tana Rabbanim Tana Braysa Misheish Lo Beishar Achsadro Marpaset Bechaser Chaver. Someone who doesn't actually live in the chaser, but he has a beishar, he has like a guardhouse, achsadra, or this is a like a tented enclosure, and where peset is a balcony or a porch. So in his friend's chaser, he doesn't make it aser. The reason is because it's not a place where people live, and even if he does live there, it's not a typical base dira. It's not a place where people usually live. These are all temporary. Like a hut is not a place people live. It's a achsadra is a place without walls. People don't live there, so it doesn't make it also on everyone else. However, Beis HaTevin, if you have a granary, you have a storage for grain. Beis HaBakar, you have a barn. And Beis HaEitzim, you have a wood storage place for wood storage. Beis HaOitros, or a storehouse for anything else. Hariza Oyster love there makes it also. The reason is there's a Rashi Naftali which says that anything that's made to be used constantly is called a dira. So here also it's, even though he doesn't live there, but since it's made to be constantly used by the owners, therefore makes it aser. And Mr. Ross was asking me yesterday how we had back on Samech Gimel that. He says a geyser shus is like a dir shel behemoth, like a barn, pretty much. So how come here? Oh, and that's a typical example of something which is not a dira. Here we say Beis HaBakar is a dira. So the answer is though that all these places are enclosed. They have walls and they have roofs. A dir shel behemoth is actually outside, so it's not roofed over. Okay. So Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Ina Oser Ela Makom Dira, but only a Makom Dira makes it Aser, and he's arguing on the Tanakama because Tanakama said that a Beishar Chsadra Marpeset, even so, only if he doesn't live there, then it doesn't make it Aser. But if he lives there, then he makes it Aser. Rabbi Yehuda says no, that even if someone lives in a Chsadra Marpeset or a Chaser, he doesn't make it Aser. Okay. Amar Yehuda, Ma'aseh ben Nafcha, shayu lechamish chaseres ba'usha. There's a Ma'aseh with ben Nafcha who had 5 chaseres in Usha. Uba Ma'aseh lifnei chachamim. Uva Amru, they came from the Chacham and they said, Einay Oyser ela beis dira bavad. Only beis dira, only place he actually lives in, makes it aser on the rest of the mavli. So Gemara asks, beis dira sal chadaydach. You think actually a place where people, just the house, makes it aser. Ela'ima makom dira means the place where he actually lives. My makom dira, what qualifies living? Rav Amar makom pita, place where he eats. Ushmuel Amar makom lina, place where he sleeps. Also, there's actually very no gay for Hilchos Chanukah. What do you light? You have to light in your place of dira. Okay, so Mesave, we have a question on Rav, who said that where you eat is that's where you live. Harayim, the shepherds, v'akaitzim, those who watch the ketzias, those who the figs that are drying out in the fields, v'aborganim, the little huts, also for to watch the fields, v'shamrei peiros, and those who guard the peiros, bisman shedarchan lalin ba'ir, when they are accustomed to sleeping in the city, they're considered like the people of the city. Bisman shadarkan lalin basade, at the time when they're accustomed to sleeping in the field. Yesh lahem alpayim lachol ruach. So this is actually by Eruvin Tachumin, and says that so they get 2,000 amos from wherever they are in the field. And similarly, also by Erev Chatzeres, wherever you sleep is considered your dira. That's where it goes after. That's the same halacha by Erev Techumen, that wherever your dira is, you get 2,000 amos from there. Okay, so we see over here that where the place where you sleep, the place where you sleep is that makes it where you live, and therefore you get 2,000 amos from where you sleep.
So that's according to Shmuel.
Yeah, which is a question on Rav. Right, so our answer is no. Hasam Rav Volans, you there Anan Sahadi. We are witnesses. We know to mamtu lahu rifta hasam tfeinich lahu, that if you would bring him bread wherever he's sleeping in the place where he's watching, so he'd like it much more over there. And even though he'd rather, being that he's sleeping here, he'd rather eat here also. The only thing is there's no food available. And therefore, it's as if he's fully living here and he has to go to the city on the side to eat. Whereas the Machlokes Rav and Shmuel is in a case where he's eating, he has a place that's set aside for eating, and he has another place that's set aside for sleeping. So which place is called his dira? That's the Machlokes.
But here, I guess in the field where there's food...
No, there's no food in the field, but his main place is in the field, though.
Right, especially in the field.
And he'd rather have his food in the field, too.
Right.
It's just not available. Okay, so Amar Rav Yosef, Loishmi Ali Hashmaita, I didn't hear this memory of Rav, this saying of Rav. Amalei Abaye, At Amr Nialan, you yourself told to us, and Rashi points out, because Rav Yosef used to forget, he forgot his learning, and Abaye is telling you to remind him of it, and I'm not sure why Rashi sometimes comments on it, sometimes he doesn't. Okay, but I guess every few times, so just to remind you. So, Amar Le Abaye, At Amr Nialan, you told to us, Vaha Amr Nialan, and you told to us on this teaching, on this Mishnah coming up, that we just had. The brothers which were eating by their father's table, and they were sleeping in their houses. They need an eruv for every single one of them. And we told you, there's a proof from the Mishnah, the place of, this is at the beginning of the Gemara we just had, that we see the place of sleeping is what causes you to, that sets your makom dira. And being that they sleep in their own houses, therefore, even though they eat by their father's houses, therefore they have to contribute separately to the eruv. And you told us on that, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav b'makabli prashanu. They get supported by their father, but they don't eat. They don't actually eat in his house. Therefore, they are fully living in their houses for all halachos. So Tani Rabbanan, we taught in the Brisa, someone who has 5 wives who get supported by their husbands, and Rashi says, but they actually have their own houses, they have their separate houses in the Chatzar. Or 5 avadim who accept a portion from their masters, also they live in the separate houses in the Chatzar. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira mater benashim v'ayisab avadim. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says he's mater benashim. He says the wife, if you have a chaser, that's just the husband and his wives in different houses, so that you don't need an eruv. By avadim, though, it's also you do need an eruv, because there's a closer connection between the husband and his wives to a master and his servants, and therefore a master and his servants are considered living separately, but a husband and his wives, even in separate houses, are considered living together. So Rabbi Yehuda ben Mava, Mater b'avadim v'ayser benashim. Rabbi Yehuda ben Mava says just the opposite. No, by avadim they're considered to be together, and the Gemara will explain why. V'ayser benashim, but the ladies are living separately. So Amar Rav, my time in Rabbi Yehuda ben Mava. What's the reason of Rabbi Yehuda ben Mava, who's Mater b'avadim? D'ksiv v'Daniel b'Israel Malka. Daniel, pasuk says Daniel was in the gate of the king, even when he wasn't. I mean, he's considered to be, since he was in the service of the king, he was constantly considered to be there. So the point is, since he had to serve the king, so therefore he was called living by the king. So to any Eved who has to serve the master more than wives, so they actually have to serve. So they are considered to be living with the master, even if they're in separate houses. Okay. So Gemara says Pshita Bun. So it's obvious to us that we say what we have until now. Ben Eitzel Pshita Ben Eitzel Aviv, a son by his father. Kida Amran is considered to be living with his father. So if you have a chaser which is only father and sons, you do not need an eruv. Isha Eitzel Bala ve'eved Eitzel Rabbi. So a lady, a wife by her husband, a servant by his master. Plukta Rabbi Yehuda ben Beser, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. That's the machlekes we just said. Talmud Eitzel Rabbi. What about a Talmud by his Rebbe, who actually points out who gets supported by his Rebbe? What's the halacha? Do you need an eruv or not? Tashma bring your proof. Rav by Rabbi Chia, when Rav was in the house, literally in the yeshiva of Rabbi Chia, Amar, he said, "Einanu tzrichim la'arav." We do not need an eruv. Shari anu saimchin al shulchanoi shel Rabbi Chia. We rely for the support of Rabbi Chia. Therefore, we do not need an eruv. Rabbi Chia by Rabbi Amar, and also Rabbi Chia, when he was in the yeshiva of Rabbi, would say, "Ein anu tzrichim la'arav." We don't need to make an eruv. Shari anu saimchin al shulchanoi shel Rabbi. We are saimich on we rely on the support on literally on the table of Rabbi. Ba'minei Abba Mirabba, Chamisha Shagavu as Eruvin, 5 people who collect their Eruvin. When they take their Eruvin l'makom acher, they want to join up with another Chatzer. So Eruv Echel Kulan, does only one person have to take an Eruv and deposit it in the other Chatzer? Or does each one individually have to contribute to give over an Eruv? Meaning the question is, are they considered all, once they make an Eruv, are they all considered to be like one? Or are they still considered to be separate?
I'm sorry, they took the Eruv from the Chatzar to another Chatzar?
No, once they already made a Chatzar, Eruv in this Chatzar. So, and they want to join up, they want to make an Eruv Chatzar with another Chatzar. Right. So how many portions do you need to put into the other Chatzar? One or one for everyone?
It's just like part of one Eruv enough.
Yeah.
Do you have to have it all? Or
meaning, the question is, do we look at this Chatzar as one big Rishus, as just one big Dira, and therefore you only have to place one portion down in another Chatzar to join with another Chatzar? Or do we say no, that they're only considered connected for this Chatzar, but in regards to everyone else, they're separate houses?
But it's a separate Eruv. It's not part of the Eruv. It's a
Yeah,
separate
for sure.
food.
From the first Eruv?
No.
Oh, it's a separate Eruv.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah, it's separate. Yeah.
Separate. It's not. You don't take part of the first Eruv
Right.
and move it to the second Chatzar.
Right.
It's a separate conglomeration of food to take there.
So, who
that's-
participates in that?
Didn't we talk about this
Either.
yesterday?
Yeah.
Which one?
We talked about this yesterday
A
too.
little bit.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not part. You don't take
Right.
it apart from there. At least the way I understand.
Right. So how do they make the other Eruv?
We take some food from the
Yeah,
house.
you
and
take
put it
some
together
money
to
food,
make
yeah.
a new Eruv.
More food.
So the question is, you take from each one of the people,
Or just
Right.
one person can represent the whole group.
Right. Are they considered to be all like one group, or are they
Right.
still separate? So this is Abba asking Rabba. So okay, Amalei. So Rabba told him, Eruv Echel Lekulan, one can make an Eruv for all of them. Just some food for thought. Back on DAF Ayin, we had a similar question. Abba asking Rabba, does one person have to be mevatel zeshus to all of them, or only to one of them? And there Rabba said he has to be mevatel zeshus to every single one of them individually, which implied that they're actually not connected. Here that he's implying they are connected. Okay.
So for
But there's a few answers. But okay.
Vatal, it's separate, but to make an Eruv, it seems it's
No. So in fact, the Gemara actually coming out after the Gemara that will actually have an answer to this, as we'll see. So yeah, it's a bit of it appears to be a contradiction, but by the end of the Gemara we'll have an answer. So he asked, brothers when they're with their father, so it's as if they're all together. Ukatani, and we taught that you need an eruv for every single one of them. Each of them have to contribute individually. So Gemara says that there's other people living in the chaser with them. It's not just the brothers and the father. There's other people living there also. Since the other people make it usher on them, so we have to look at it as if all the brothers are separate now, and then they also make it usher on everyone else. And Hachinam Mistaber, and it actually it's actually very logical like that. Tiktani, as we taught in the Mishnah, Emasai, when was it said that each one has to contribute individually? Bisman when they bring their eruv to another place, which actually means in the same chatzar. If the eruv would come to one of their houses, or the father's house, Rashi said, so or if there's no one living with them in the chatzar, so they don't need to make an eruv. That's a proof. The proof is, Rashi points out, because we said where there's no diurin with them, so they don't need an eruv, which implies that the only reason why they wouldn't need an eruv is when there's other people living in the same chatzar, which make it asur on them. But otherwise, they would not make it asur on each other. And truth, with this, you can actually answer the other question I just asked. That because by bittul, that's before, meaning we're saying over here that when they're all joined together, so they're all called to be one rishus. Meaning, if they're all together and there's no one with them, they're all considered to be one rishus. They're all joined. But if someone else is there and they have to make an eruv, so then they're considered all separate. So also by bittul, but before they actually have a eruv that's made, so they're all considered to be separate. Once the eruv is made, though, they're all together. So once you have all five of them together, then you only have to send one person over to the next chatzar. But only once they're joined. To make them joined, you have to make them all joined individually. Okay, so by minei Rav Chia bar Avin Amir Sheshes Bnei Beirav De'achli Nahama V'Baga. Suppose you have the people of a yeshiva who eat bread in a, Rashi says it, in a place of lodgings in the valley. Va'asu Baisi Be'Beirav, they go and sleep in the yeshiva, I guess dormitories or something. Okay, so Kimashchinan Lahu Techuma. So when they are measuring their tchum in Beirav Mashchinan, do they measure it from the yeshiva where they sleep? Mashchin lahu amibaga, mashchin lahu, or do they measure it from the valley where they eat? Which seems to be the question we had by Rav and Shmuel at the time of the Amud. Amalei mashchinon mi beirav, you measure from the yeshiva, which seems to imply like Shmuel, place where you sleep. So Gemara asks, but if you, in a typical case where you place your eruv within 2,000 amas of your house, and you sleep in your house, so, and you measure your tchum from your eruv, you don't measure it from the place where your food is. So, and Amarle, Bahi Anan Sahadi, there, in fact, we have. There we are witnesses. There we know, but ubahada anan sahadi, and here also it's also like an anan sahadi. So bahi anan sahadi, by this case it's anan sahadi, by the case of his eruv, by the food, that you measure your tchum from where the food is, not from where you're sleeping. That anan sahadi di mistarle hasam nichale, because there Rashi points out the reason if you were to live there, you would prefer to have your food there also. Meaning you want to go on Shabbos to another place 2,000 amas away, and therefore you place your eruv down outside your house within 2,000 amas, and you would actually prefer to have slept there in order to get a head start in the morning. The only thing is you don't have places to sleep over there, but you'd rather sleep over there. And therefore, you're considered as if you're living by where your eruv is. Ubahada, however, in this case, anan sahadi de'i maisu lehu rifta lebeirav. We're also, it's as if we know that if someone in yeshiva, so he would rather have his food brought to him in the yeshiva rather than having to go out. So nichal hu tfei. So he'd rather have his food in yeshiva, and therefore he's considered to be living in yeshiva. So Bo Yirami Bar Chama Meir Rav Chisda Avu B'nai Harav V'Talmidai. You have a father and you have a son, or a Rabbi and a Talmud. Kirabim Dami Yechidim Damu, are they like Rabbim, or are they like Yechidim? Meaning, one question is, do they have to make an eruv to? Like Gemara says, tzrichen eruv, ein tzrichen eruv. Do they have to make an eruv or not? Mavoi shalahen niter belechi v'kara, or ein niter belechi v'kara, and only a mavoi that has multiple chatzeres and multiple diurin, multiple people who live there, could have a heter of lechi v'kara. So the question is: so here, are they like a for lechi and kara purposes? Are they considered a rabbim or yachid? So we taught was taught in the brisa. Avu b'nai harav talmidai bizman she'inei man diurin. When there are no other people living there, harehin ki yechidim. They're like yechidim ve'ein tzrichin la'ariv, and they do not need to make an eruv. They're all considered like one. However, for the purposes of lechi v'kara, at the end of the day, they're still living in separate houses, and therefore it's multiple chatzeros with multiple people who live there. Good. So we have our new Mishnah. Chamish chatzeros pesuchos ulazu. We have 5 chatzeros which are open to each other. The Rashi has a diagram. So pesuchos le'mavoi. So they're open to each other, and they're also open to the mavoi. So eruv b'chatzeros v'lo nishtadfu. Suppose you were made an eruv in the chaser and you did not make a sheet of v'lo nishtadfu b'mavoi. They did not join together in the mavoi. Mutar b'chatzeros v'asurin b'mavoi. They're mutter in the chaser and they're asur in the mavoi, which implies, like Rabbi Meir, machlokes Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim, which implies, like Rabbi Meir, that you need to make both eruv and a sheet of. One does not work for the other. If they were nishtatif in the mavoi, so they're mutter both in the chaser and the mavoi, which applies like the Rabbanan, like more or less the stira, which implies that only if you only have a shiduf from a voice, then you don't need an eruv chaseres. Eruv b'chaseres v'nishtadfu b'mavoi. Suppose you made an eruv in the chaser and you made a shiduf in the mavoi. V'shokach echem ibnei chaser v'lai eruv. One of the people in the chaser did not join in the eruv. Mutarim kan and v'kan, they mutter both in the eruv and the shiduf, which also implies that because there's a shiduf, you don't need an eruv. Because since one person wasn't included in the chaser, the eruv is mivata. It's gone. Okay, so mipnei mavoi, if someone forgot from the mavoi, v'loi nishtatef, meaning one of the chaseros did not join in to the sheet of mavois. So mutarin bechaseros v'asurin b'mavoi, so they mutter in the individual chaseros, or to go from one chaser to the next, and they're also to carry inside the mavoi, to carry from the chaseros to the mavoi. Shemavoi the chaseros kechaser lebatim. The reason is because a mavoi in regards to the chaser is like a chaser in regard to the house. It's just like a eruv in a chaser allows people from the houses to carry inside the chaser. So too, a shidduv mavois allows people from the chaseres to carry inside the mavoi. Okay, so and that the end of the Mishnah seems to be going like Rabbi Meir again, who says that you need both. One does not work for the other. So, and the Gemara goes through the whole Mishnah now. Mani, who is the Mishnah going like Rabbi Meir? He goes like Rabbi Meir. The Amar be'inan eruv u'be'inan shituf. You need an eruv and you need a shituf. So, that's the first case. So, ema misyasa. So, what about the middle case? If you just make a shituf, you are in the mavoi. You could be mutter to carry inside the chaseres too. In fact, it actually means from the houses to the chaseres. Even without an eruv, you could carry inside a chaser. It's just to allow you to carry from the house to the chaser, you need a eruv. Okay, so asan l'Rabbanan. So if the middle case, which you just made a shituf in the mavoi, it's mutter to carry in the chaseres too. So it implies like the Rabbanan. To amri bechadasag, you only need one. If you have a shituf, you don't need an eruv. So halakasha, Gemara says no, that's not a question. V'im nishtadfu nami ka'amar. That it's going back on the Reisha. The Reisha says if you just made an eruv, you're mutter in the chatzeres, you're also in the mavi. Then it says v'im nishtadfu, and if you also made a shituf, you're mutter in the mavi too. Okay, but it's going back on the Reisha. So it's just saying if you have an eruv and you have a shituf, so it's mutter in both. So ema seifa. So what about the seifa? Eruv b'chaseres v'nishtadfu b'mavoi. If you made an eruv in the chaseres, you made a shituf in the mavoi, and one of the bnei chaser forgot and he wasn't included in the eruv, mutarim kan v'kani mutter in both to carry around the chatzeres and the mavi too. So hey, what's the case? Idalay batel, if he was not mevatel his rishos, my mutarim, why are they a mutter in the chatzer? They don't have a valid eruv. Lapshita the batel, rather it's obvious he must have made a bittul, and therefore that's why you could carry it in the chatzer. So Gemara says, if that's the case, ema seifa. Let's look at the seifa. If one of the people of the mavoy forgot, and one of the chatzeros of the mavoy forgot, and they did not join in the shituf, so you could carry amongst the chatzeros, but you cannot carry from any of the chatzeros to the mavoy. Ve'i de batel, if that chatzer was mevatel its reshus to the other chatzeros, amay asurin b'mavoi, why could they not carry inside the mavoi? V'chi teiman, if you're going to say, because Rabbi Meir ain't bitul reshus b'mavoi, that bitul reshus only helps in a chatzer that a house, in individual houses could be mevatel their reshus to the rest of the people in a chatzer, but the chatzeros could not be mevatel their reshusim to each other. V'hatanya, but we taught in the brisa back by the Rabbi Gamliel and the tzedaikim. And the tzedaki who was in his chatzer, in his mavoi, actually, that's the key point. In that brisa was speaking about a mavoi. V'atanya, we said it in the brisa, shari bitul lachem reshusai. The Rabbi Meir, because Rabbi Meir says, do everything you need to do in the mavoi before he comes out and makes a chazaka in his reshus, because he was mevatel to reshus, and this was speaking about a mavoi. So we see you could be mevatel reshus to allow you to carry inside a mavoi, and that's very mirror. Ella pshita, rather it's obvious to loy batel, that the only reason why it is aser to carry in the mavoi is because that chaser was not mevatel its reshus to the other chaseres. We mean the seifa to loy batel. We know the seifa is speaking about a case where they were not mevatel their reshus. So Reisha Nami Delay Batal. So the Reisha also, where someone in the Chatzar forgot to join in the Eruv. So also you cannot. There also speaking about where he was not mevatel his house in regards to the Chatzar, and still we say you could carry in both, and still we say he's mutter in both. So it comes out that Reisha of a Seifa Remeir, the Reisha and the Seifa, the Reisha where we had carrying in the that if you made a Eruv Chaser, so not a Shituf, you could carry in the Chatzar, not in the Mavoi. So that's like Rabbi Meir. And the Sefer also over here is like Rabbi Meir. That's where one of the people in the Mavoi, when the Chatzeres forgot to join in. So you can carry in the Chatzeres, you cannot carry in the Mavoi. That's also like they're both like Rabbi Meir. Misyasa Rabbanan, and now we're saying they're a middle case is a Rabbanan, that where one of the people forgot to join in the Eruv. So in fact it's Mevatel your Eruv, and still you could carry in both the Chatzar and the Eruv. It implies like the Rabbanan. So how does that work? You can't have a Mishnah that 2/3 of the Mishnah is Rabbi Meir and one part is the Rabbanan. So Gemara says no. Kula Rabbi Meir here. Really, the middle case is also Rabbi Meir. The whole Mishnah is Rabbi Meir, and the middle case also where you forgot to one person forgot to join in the Eruv, and he's still allowed to carry inside the Eruv, inside the Chatzar. That's also Rabbi Meir. The time of my Rabbi Meir being Eruv being on Shituf. Why did Rabbi Meir say that you need an Eruv and you need a Shituf? You need both. So that the kid shouldn't forget that there's something called a Eruv. So they should know that every Shabbos we need a Eruv, we need a Shituf. And in this case, Kivan the Ruba Eruvu loy mishtacha. In this case, since most of them made an Eruv already, therefore they're not going to forget. Meaning, since only one person out of an entire Mavoi, all the Chaseres included, forgot, so therefore we're not going to make a Gzeir. Okay, so Amar Rav Yehuda, Rav Laitani Psuchai Zulazu. Rav, in fact, in the Mishnah did not teach that the Chaseres are open to each other. He only taught that the Chaseres are open to the Mavoi, but they're not open to each other. V'chein Amar Rav Kahana, Rav Laitani Psuchai Zulazu. Rav did not teach that the Chaseres are open to each other, rather they're just open to the Mavoi. And when it says in the Mishnah that you could carry inside the Chatzar, it means you can carry inside each individual Chatzar. But you cannot carry. But it doesn't mean but until now we were saying you carry from one chutzner to the next. But now we're saying that no, that the chaseris are closed to each other. And carrying in the chutzner means you carry inside each individual chutzner, between the houses and the chutzner. Okay, so Ikadami, those who said it like this, Rav Kahana Gufe Loitani Psuche Zulusu, Rav Kahana himself didn't teach the Mishnah that they're open to each other. Amalei Abaye LeRav Yosef, my taima, what's the reason Loitani Psuche Zulusu that they didn't teach that the people in the chutzner are open to each other? Because Ksavar he holds Kol Shiduf She'in Machnisa Yomatziyah Derech Psachim B'Mavoi Lav Shmei Shiduf, any Shiduf which was not brought in and out through the doorways to the Mavoi is not called a Shiduf, meaning that in order to make an Shiduf Mavoi, you have to join together all in one chutzner, put together one thing of food, or one joint box of food, and so in order to put it to carry the food from one chutzner to the next chutzner, to each chutzner has to make its donation. So Rav says you actually have to bring it outside from the chutzner to the mavi, and from the mavi back into the chutzner where the shituf is being kept. Reason is because the whole point is that you're joining together everyone in the mavi. Now, if you just go from one chutzner to the next chutzner bypassing the mavi, so
you're not incorporating the mavui.
Yeah.
So just by taking it to the mavui and bringing it back, that's it. That's how it makes the shituf and the mavui just.
No, meaning it has to be a case where where whatever chutzner it's in, you have to take it from the other chutzers through the mavi and back into the chutzner. Yeah, to incorporate the mavi.
So just going through the mavui.
Yeah. Now the problem is if the chutzers are open to each other, then you always have the possibility that you might take it through the chaseris, and even if at the end of the day you did take it through the mavi, it wouldn't help, since the possibility remains that you could have taken it through the chaser. People will get mixed up; they'll think that you could take from one chaser to another chaser,
and not through the mavi.
Yeah.
If you don't bring the mavi.
Yeah. So therefore, it has to specifically be that it's closed, that there's no doorways between one chaser to the next. Okay, so. If you have a mavoi where a balabais has a shituf with these neighbors with wine and these neighbors with wine, you do not need to make an eruv. So, which implies that he makes a partnership with one, meaning that you have the wine in the middle chaser, and the other ones, meaning that you only went between the two chaseris. That he has that one chaser has a partnership with the other chaser. Meaning this is a partnership in chaseris we're dealing with, and we say it works for a shituf, and assumingly they didn't go through the mavi in this case. It's a partnership between the chaseris, so they just go one to the next. So Gemara says no. Hasam the afki v'ayle. When they brought the wine from one to the other, they went through the mavi. They went out. They went back in. Okay. So then that's another question. Keitza mishtadfin b'mavoi. So Mishnah later on, how do you make a shituf in a mavoi? You place a chavis. You could place a barrel inside a one of the chaseris and say, "I'm mizaka this to all the people of the chaseris," and that works. So, which implies you don't have to bring it through the mavoi. Just have a barrel inside any chaser and just say this. So there also no. We could say that you brought it out and you brought it back in. Okay, so again, these are a bit of a stretch, and in fact, it's not the maskana, as we'll see. Maskefla Rabba Bar Chanan Elameata Hikna like Pas Basali. If your makna pass in the basket, Hachanami Deloy have Yeshitov. If also similar case, if you just have a bread basket and you say you're mizakit to everyone else, you're makna to everyone else, so you're going to say that it's not a shitov. That you have to bring it through the mavi. If you're going to say that in fact, yes, based on what we're saying, we will say that. Rav Yehuda said the name of Rav, meaning Rav himself said, suppose you had a group of people who were eating together the Shabbos meal, and then it turned into Shabbos. The bread on the table is considered enough of a connection between the people there that it works for an eruv for the whole chatzar. they don't, even though it wasn't officially designated as such beforehand. It works as an eruv. V'amrila, and there are those who say mishum shiduf, it works as a shiduf, meaning it's a. So v'amar rabba, like pligi, it's not a machlekes. Come b'mesubim b'bayis, come b'mesubim b'chaser. Here's where they are eating in the house, where that becomes their place of dira, since they have their food in the house, and so it's a communal chaser Shabbos meal, and therefore it works as an eruv. And come b'smuchin b'mesubim b'chaser. Here's where they're eating in the chaser, and since the chaser is not a place of dira, therefore it could only work as a shituf. It cannot work as an eruv.
Is the whole chaser eating together in that case?
Yeah. It could be even the people from different chaseres are eating together. So we see. So Tosfos points out the reason is that the proof is that the typical case would be that the balabais is inviting everyone to his suda, but it's not. People aren't bringing food in from the mavi inside. So we see that you don't need to bring food through the mavi to make a shiduf, a voice. So ela time of the Rav. So what's the reason of Rav who says he can't have entrances between one chaser to the next? The Kosover, he holds ein mavi niter b'lech v'karya ad sheyehu batim v'chaseres p'suchan l'taychay. We have a brayso or a mishnah which says that a mavi is not niter with lechi v'karya unless it has houses and chaseres open to it. Now, where all the chaseres are open to each other, it's all considered one joint chaser. It's not one big chaser. It's not considered separate chaseres. And the halacha is you need at least two chaseres, and Rav is saying you need two separate chaseres to make a lechi v'kara on a mavi.
Okay.